Thank you to everyone who has commented on my last video about neurodiversity. It means a lot to me to hear your stories, and it means a lot to me to know that sharing mine has made some people go, yeah, me too, but I just didn't want to say it. And I think when we're faced with all these headlines, by Wes Streeting saying we're over labeling, we're over diagnosing, it feels like an assault on our senses. It feels like a direct hit. Um, and for Bridget Phillipson to tell us that we've got to rethink send, as I've said before, if you're a send parent, you don't need to rethink anything. You've thought it, you've thunk it, over and over and over again, because that's all you can do. You've got to find a way to help your child fit in a mainstream world, and the irritation of that is mainstream just doesn't exist. It's something that somebody's had to sort of put in place to cater for what they think is the norm. And as time has gone on, and the more we've learned about neurodiversity, the more we've learned about the way that the brain works, how we work, the more we've realized that actually labels are really important, for so many reasons. And I think they're from people who don't understand them, or perhaps see something that they're not ready to see. And I always find people fall in two categories. I mean, we always have there's nothing wrong with my child, or will they grow out of it? Or, it's a bit weird. And often that will come from someone who will have had thoughts themselves about either themselves or a child or a partner, but just it's too much to go down that road. And that's fine. You've got to be ready for it. You've got to be at a point where you're accepting of it, and that will either happen or it won't. But denial can often come across in all of the wrong ways. And when I hear Wes Streeting saying we're over labeling and we're over diagnosing, and when I hear Bridget Phillipson telling us we've got to rethink send, I think two very different things. I think with Wes Streeting, I don't know that it's coming from a bad place. I think it's coming from a naive place and an ignorant place. I think that actually to diagnose and to give somebody the opportunity to have a peg to put their hat is potentially almost the saving grace in society, because we're allowing them from a very early age to really delve into who they are and what they are and how they can manage that. If you give somebody a toolkit, they're going to use it through life. Whereas if you repress it and put it in the corner of the room with the stigma, the ignorance, then that's just going to come out later in life, and that's when you do have acute needs. That's when you do have acute problems. If we've all seen the child who half the group have said there's ADHD in there, and the other half of the group have said, oh, they're just kids, kids will be kids. Well, the thing is, if there's even the question of that, then doesn't that suggest that the child has some needs, regardless of whether they are ADHD, or regardless of whether they're low self-esteem, or regardless of whether they're a learning challenge? There's something that's making them behave that way. And if we don't investigate it, if we don't support them, if we don't help them, what's going to happen in later life? That's going to become learned behaviors, and then all of a sudden those behaviors can get the negative connotations that come with the labels. And for so many people, a late diagnosis comes off the back of a breakdown of some sort, or a real struggle with adult life. Yet if we were to have helped that individual as a child, we'd have given them the tools to be able to cope with that. And I see all of these pegs being used with negative connotations. Why are we referring to them as conditions or dysregulations or dysfunctions? We're all wired. We've all got a wiring system in our body that gets messages to our brains, and they all take a different path, but they all get there in the end. And it's the path that the messages go on that is the bit that makes us spicy, that makes us who we are, that makes us able to see things in the way that we do. I mean, Richard Branson is famously dyslexic. Thank God he is, because if he wasn't, he would not have done what he's done. He'd have not have thought of out of the box. And people, it's my own fault because I've just said it, thinking out of the box. Why is it out of the box? Why is it seen to be different? Because it's come from a a, a dyslexic perspective? Why is it not Richard Branson's way of thinking? You know, but he does think in such a way, he has that ability, and yet we go, oh, he's dyslexic. No, he's dyslexic. Thank God he's dyslexic. You know, I'm a journalist. Thank God I'm dyslexic. I see in pictures. So because I see in pictures, I have to describe the pictures with words. And I can't spell them, and I often don't get them in the right order. And sometimes you would look at what I've written and go, that's just an amalgamation of letters. But it's in my head, I know what it is. And when I say it out loud, it's a description of those pictures. Well, if I didn't see in pictures, I couldn't be so descriptive. And, you know, it gets me into hot water sometimes as well. And I I understand now why I am who I am. And I'm proud of being dyslexic. I'm not embarrassed. I'm not ashamed. I'm proud of being autistic, because if I wasn't autistic, I wouldn't have achieved the things I've achieved. And I'm proud of my achievements. But it's taken me 48, nearly 49 years to be able to go, ah, that's why. And in the lead up to that, some of my achievements have been hidden under the carpet or put in a corner. And some of my mistakes have been over amplified. Why has she done that? Why has she behaved like that? And to be able to make sense of that makes me me. And I'm confused as to why that's even a topic for debate. You know, if a child in school needs some more tools in their toolkit, give them to them. And if they need to align with being dyslexic or dyspraxic or dyscalculia or autistic, and if that's where they feel they identify, why would we not let them do that? You know, you express yourself in so many different ways, in the clothing you wear, the makeup that you put on your face, the hairstyle that you have, the way that you walk, the music you're into. For so many of us, this is an expression of ourselves. Why are we oppressing that expression? And it seems to me very flat-footed and short-sighted to say we're over-diagnosing. What's wrong with diagnosing? Shouldn't we be looking at and saying we're not over-diagnosing, we're under-supporting? And again, we're looking at it from a different way. The more people that understand who they are and what they need, the simpler the system will become. Because when we give voice to our needs, we can eloquently say, I need help in duh, duh, duh. And quite often it can just be so simple. And yet that's life changing. So I don't think we are overdiagnosing, and I don't think we are labeling. I think we're under supporting and we're not understanding. And the ignorance is the stigma. Too many people will say, I don't want them labelled. I don't want them pigeonholed. Well, that's suggesting it's a negative thing to be any of the things the label is. And it's not. It's negative if it's not helped, if it's not supported, if it's not embraced. But if it is all of those things, then what are you inferring? What are you trying to say? It's not okay for your kid if I don't want them labelled as ADHD. Why? Would you not want to help them with their ADHD and show society that ADHD can be a really positive thing? If harnessed and helped, it can unleash a person to do so many things, but it can also be a massive hindrance. I mean, dyslexia is my superpower. No, it's not. But it's not my superpower because of dyslexia. It's not my superpower because of society. The way that other people see it are the hindrance. They are the negativity, not you, not the name, not the label. Dyslexia, ADHD, autism, dyspraxia, they're just part of you. The negativity comes in from outside. It doesn't come from inside out. And not supporting these people is the bit to me that's just insane. If somebody turns up with a broken leg and doesn't have it put in a cast, that's negligence, isn't it? If you go to a hospital and you've got a broken leg and they don't try and put it in a cast to fix it, that's negligence. And we would all go, that's negligence. Yeah, if a child is presenting with a learning challenge or a behavioural challenge and we brush that under the carpet, what's that? That's negligence. And that's where we get the acute needs, because when they weren't acute, they weren't helped. So I don't think we're over-labelling. I don't think we're over-diagnosing. I think we're massively under supporting.